Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this week's Hangout on Air. My name is Elene Marsden, and this afternoon I am so delighted to have with me Chris Robery. And I'm going to introduce you to Chris, but he's quite incredible. I've known him a few years now. He's been actually teaching and running workshops in singing for over 30 years. And he's part of the Natural Voice Practitioners Network, and he shares the philosophy and the belief that everybody can sing, regardless of their experience and, in fact, or their background. And he's very patient and very charismatic as a teacher, and he's got a lot of humour laced in his style, and I can vouch for this because I've actually taken part in a number of Chris's workshops, and I'm sure that will unfold as we talk about what Chris is up to. But what he specialises in is unaccompanied harmony singing with music from around the world, particularly Eastern European music, African music, and music from the Pacific. And what he says is he'll get you singing in a wonderful harmony in a matter of minutes. Is that right, Chris?
That's absolutely right. I can do that. I promise.
How do you do that? That's what I'd like to know.
That's a hard act to live up to, isn't it? I don't know. I mean, I've always described my job as I point and then everybody sings, and it gives me a good time and I enjoy it, and then I go home. It's as simple as that.
Well, I certainly have enjoyed your workshops, and I'm doing the Singing Safari. Do you want to tell people what the Singing Safari is?
Well, I don't like the word choir. One of the reasons people think they can't sing is because it's all terribly posh and formal and old-fashioned, and the word like choir brings up memories of when we were at school and everybody singing badly out of tune, or everybody in tuxedos and bow ties. So I try to avoid the word choir. So I thought of calling it a singing safari, and the idea is that we go on an imaginary journey around the world, collecting exotic songs from all over the place, and then we sing them. And this singing safari just lasts for 6 weeks, so it's ideal for people that don't like too much commitment. It's not a weekly thing that goes on for years, so just 6 weeks, come together, learn songs so fast that you don't have time to worry about whether you know them or not, and before you realise it, the performance is over and everyone's happy.
And it's so true. I can't understand how you manage to turn a group of people, 40, 50 people, into singers in that short space of time. What's the secret? What's the magic?
The secret is to, first of all, behave as if you know what you're doing, which is I behave as if I know what I'm doing, and then the singers behave as if they know what they're doing, and don't let on that it's difficult.
Yes.
Just behave as if it's really, really easy and anyone can do it, and it kind of allows people to feel safe. And I do believe everyone is capable of doing it. So if you just behave as if it's a straightforward thing and no problem, people always rise to the occasion.
Yes. So let's go back a bit. Tell me how you got into this, how you started in the first place. What started you off on this singing journey?
Well, I'm a charlatan. I have no musical training whatsoever. In fact, my training is as a mathematician and computer scientist many, many years ago.
No.
And then, yeah. I used to do research in artificial intelligence and robots and machines that could see years ago.
Wow.
And then I got a bit bored with that, and I ended up doing theatre, really strange, weird, fringy, alternative experimental theatre, and travelled around the world doing that. And I ended up in Cardiff, where we made our own work, and part of the performances were slipping some songs in.
Right.
So a woman used to come in and teach us songs from Eastern Europe and Africa and various other places without any instruments, all in harmony, and I just fell in love with it.
Right.
And I've been doing it ever since, really.
Right. Gosh, and so where do you get all your songs from? Because, I mean, how many songs do you know for a start?
Oh God, I worked out the other day that I probably taught about 600 songs.
Wow.
In the last 15 years or so.
Wow. And where do you get your inspiration from? Where did the songs come from?
Well, when I first started out, I started an adult education class, and I think I had 4 songs. I thought, that's enough to last me the end of term, and then I'm going to panic.
Okay.
But it's like anything, you know, if you come across a new word that you've never seen before and you find out what it means, you suddenly start seeing it everywhere.
Mm.
And it's a bit like that. If you start hunting for songs, songs will be everywhere. So I used to, driving back from choir late at night, I used to listen to the radio. Late Junction is a great program, has lots of world music on. I'd find weird CDs on Amazon or in the bookshop. I'd come across songbooks from Germany with South African songs in. I go to as many workshops as I possibly can, and before you know it, you've got far too many songs that you could teach, and I've got a whole room full of stuff that's waiting to be taught.
Wow. So you're not running out of material yet?
Not at all. I think the world is full of songs.
Wow. Wow. And so do you, when you say, do you have them recorded? Do you record them yourself, or do you kind of have other people's recordings? How do you catalogue them in your room, your office?
I usually write them down because I'm a very visual person, and although when I teach I don't use sheet music, it's really hard to keep 600 songs in your head, and I have to know all the parts. So that's like 2,500 different parts I need to know. And I've got an awful memory, so I tend to write them down. Some of the simpler ones I've got recorded, but most of them are written down. But I've also got stacks of CDs and other things like that as well.
But you must have an incredible ear, because when you teach, you can, have 4-part harmonies all going on at the same time, and you can kind of switch from one to the other. That's an incredible skill.
I think I was born with that, actually. I'm not sure whether you can learn that, but I've always, ever since I was a kid, when I listened to the Beatles on the radio, I'd always be singing the harmonies rather than singing the tune. And I think I just came with a good ear. I think that's the main thing I was born with. I was very lucky to have that.
Yes, yes. So, can everyone sing?
Yes, everyone can sing. Simple as that. And I write a blog every week, and I'm going to write one in the summer called How to Sing. And it's going to be one line: open your mouth and let the sound come out. And that's the answer. You don't need expensive singing teachers or anybody. It's as simple as that.
And is it easier to sing with other people around you? I find that I feel like I'm surfing with other people. Their voices all kind of blend together, and it feels a lot easier.
Yeah, there's a weird thing that goes on. That if there's a bunch of people around you who seem to know what they're doing and pick things up quickly, you will also pick things up more quickly. And like surfing's a great analogy, and they sort of sweep you along. Whereas if you're standing there on your own, or there's only a few people, your brain will get in the way and start to worry. Do I sound nice? Am I getting this right? Will I remember the words properly? Am I getting the rhythm correct? Whereas there's a whole bunch of people around you, it's sort of as if nobody's in charge and the song takes on a life of its own, really.
Yes, indeed.
And you've got somewhere to hide as well.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there's always people in the back row.
Yeah.
What about the added benefits from singing? How would you describe those?
There's loads of them. There's as part of the Natural Voice Network, which you mentioned, I've just gone back on the committee recently, and we've been looking a lot at singing for health. There's loads and loads of scientific evidence coming out that says what we've known for years, that it's very, very good for you. Not only is it good for breath, so it's good for people who have asthma, people who have breathing problems, people who have lung problems. There are lots of singing groups, especially for people with breath problems. It's very good for relieving stress, because you're focusing on just the one thing. You haven't got time to get all tense and worrying about what's at work the next day. It's a wonderful sense of community and socializing. Again, that's got strong health benefits. Loads. I mean, it's very good for, apparently, it changes your brain structure if you do some kind of music for a couple of years, and it helps to stave off certain kinds of dementia. So there's a very good reason for doing it. And it cures baldness and makes people more attractive.
Hey, steady on.
Well, always trying to get more men. That's the line I usually use.
You do need more men. But, in your current Singing Safari group. There's a number of very strong male singers.
There are, yes. This particular project always attracts men, and even some younger men, God bless them. I think it's to do with the fact that it's not too much commitment. So, 6 weeks is something that people, and also men like showing off, so there's a bit of a performance at the end, so maybe they're more attracted to that. Yeah. I'm lucky that in my regular community choir, I've got quite a lot of male singers, but most choirs throughout the country struggle to get men, and if they do, they're aging and the younger men don't come in as much as they should.
Shame. Going back to the benefits of singing, I find that I've only got maybe a handful of songs in my repertoire, but if I'm in the car and I'm on a long car journey, if I sing, it keeps me awake, oxygenates, and it's really great. If you're feeling a bit tired, it's wonderful for that.
Definitely, yeah.
Excellent. So what projects are you working on at the moment?
I've not got anything specific other than I've got my 2015 wall chart on the wall already, and I'm starting to book things up for next winter, which is a bit scary.
Wow.
I tend to work most weekends, and a few years ago I promised myself to have one weekend a month off.
Gosh.
So the weekends get full up quite quickly. And as time goes by, I'm starting to get a pattern. And then every now and then I get requests out of the blue, which is quite nice. So in Wivenhoe on Saturday, I'm doing a free taster in a tent as part of their summer fete. And somebody just contacted me today to do, they're having an away day as part of their conference in London, and they asked me to come in for a couple of hours and do something in the afternoon. So it's quite nice when you get invited to do things unexpectedly.
Yeah, so if there are any business owners out there listening, you would help them with any away day with the difference there. Teach their executives to sing.
I did a thing some years ago, Boots headquarters in Nottingham. And I know that most people have got a real bugbear about singing. So many people think they can't sing. And I say, well, everyone can sing, and their response is, well, yeah, but except me. You haven't heard me. I'm dreadful. I'm terrible. So what I did at Boots is I started off doing some silly warm-up games, and they didn't know that it was going to be about singing. And by the end of the warm-up, they were singing in 4-part harmony, so they didn't have the chance to say they couldn't sing because they'd already done it and got over that hurdle. So it's a great way of team building. There was, I think the managing director was there, along with one of the lower levels of filing clerks.
Yes.
And of course I didn't know that, so I just stood people next door to each other depending on their voice, and they had this fantastic mingling, and they really saw each other as a real person rather than an employee. And apparently when they went back to work on the Monday morning, the sort of the vibe of the office had subtly changed because they'd seen each other open up, I guess.
Indeed, yeah, seeing each other in a different light. That's great. So
singing as a group is so egalitarian.
Absolutely.
If you get a bunch of people, it doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor, a man or a woman, or whether you're the managing director or the secretary. It's just what comes out of your mouth that counts, which is great.
And actually, it doesn't really matter, what language you sing in, because you teach all kinds of songs from around the world. How do you go about doing that? How do you go about getting people to learn these songs from Croatia and, Georgia, for example?
Well, I try and choose songs that don't have too many words if I'm working with beginners, and you just learn them phonetically. And what's great is you can pretend you're a different person. So you can pretend you're a Russian peasant or a South African farmer and put a silly voice on and just say the words phonetically, give them a bit of an accent, and it takes you out of yourself, and that stops you being underconfident and a little bit embarrassed. And it's actually easier to learn foreign songs than English ones, because with English ones, we sort of learn the meaning and then we'll paraphrase them. We won't remember it exactly, so we sort of make up a few English words and then we find they won't fit. But if you learn a foreign song, which may only have 2 or 3 words, once you've nailed the sounds of the syllables, you can really let rip, and it fits more exactly.
Indeed. Brilliant. I know that we did a Welsh song, didn't we, on St. David's Day?
Yes.
How long man? I was so proud to sing that in Welsh. Fantastic. Now, Chris, tell me, what's the largest number of people that you have taught to sing together?
Last year, very scarily, I'm asked a few times to go to the South Bank in London and do projects. And last year I did a project with about 150 people, just to create a choir from scratch in a day. I taught 5 or 6 songs, and then we did a little performance at the end. And then shortly after that, I was invited to work with more than 400 singers. This was the Pink Singers, which is a gay choir in London. They were celebrating their 30th anniversary, and they had choirs from all over the country and a series of workshops. And I was given an hour to teach them songs, and then they had 6 hours to forget them all,
Yes.
and then we performed them at the end.
Oh, wow.
And because they were running over, I ended up with 50 minutes. So in 50 minutes, I taught over 400 people 2 songs in foreign languages with dance moves. And 6 hours later, they performed them in front of a paying audience, and they kind of got away with it. They were so panicky that there was smiles from ear to ear because they didn't really know what they're doing, but it sounded great.
Fantastic. And you know, the movements that you sometimes introduce, you know, that's difficult, isn't it?
If you, us Brits, we don't like doing things like that. We like to have everything cut and dried and know what's happening, and we want to know the steps, and we're either dancing or we're singing. We're not doing both at the same time. But most of the cultures, the songs I collect, they're traditional songs that are used during work quite often, come from cultures such as South Africa, where they don't separate dancing and singing. You can't dance without singing, and you can't sing without dancing. Yeah. So if you teach them all at the same time, it actually helps keeping the rhythm. There's some of the timings are quite difficult. Some of the Eastern European songs have very strange rhythms, but if you learn the dance, it makes it much easier to keep time.
Yeah, yeah.
And not just trying to be difficult, like giving all the dance moves.
No, but it's good exercise, and it's all part of you know, doing something different.
Yeah. It also doing the dance moves makes sure that your body is not rigid. And it's very important that the body's engaged. I'm a great believer in the voice comes out of the body, so it keeps people's hips loose and their waist loose, and it stops any tension, and the voice comes out better. If people are paying attention to how their feet are working, then the singing takes care of itself.
So when people show up to one of your workshops, how do they know, you know, what's going to be comfortable for their voice?
There's no easy answer to that, really. I'm aware that most people won't be trained, so they won't be able to get very, very high or very, very low. Most of us naturally live somewhere in the middle. There aren't many of us who are real sopranos or real basses. So I make sure that everything I do in the warm-ups and the songs is within a very comfortable range. So most people in the room will be able to sing pretty much all of it. Yes. So it just comes down to a preference, whether you enjoy singing higher or lower. And I get people to put people through their paces in the warm-ups. So by the time we get to sing a song, they're all ready to go, really.
And the other thing is people can move around and experiment, which is great.
Yes.
You know, you're not sort of in a mould. You know, you've got to be in the.
Well, not like a formal. That's why I don't like the word choir. It's not like a formal choir where you're born an alto and you have to stay there forever, or you come in one week and somebody says, "You can't sit there. That's Elene's seat. She always sits there," and they have such a rigid, habitual way of going about things. I try and avoid that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, tell us about the singing safari that's coming up and the performance and what's involved.
Well, the aim is that I squeeze as many songs as possible into people's heads in 6 weeks, and we usually get through about 8 songs, and I think I've taught 6 songs so far, and we're only 3 weeks in, so we seem to be doing okay, as long as people don't start thinking, and then they'll forget everything. So we've got another 3 Tuesday evenings to go, and then because it's a summer project, we always perform outdoors. When I first came to this area, we performed at Jimmy's Farm,
Right.
Last year we were at Tattingston, part of their Open Gardens theme, and this year we're in Holywells Park in Ipswich, which is a huge park that not many people seem to know about because it hides behind the back of all the residential houses. So we're going to be in the middle of the park for about half an hour on Sunday the 13th of July at 2 o'clock, sharing the 8 songs we've learnt, and hopefully we'll get an audience, and I'll be teaching the audience a song, which is what I always do at performances, just to show people how easy it is to pick this stuff up. In fact, one of the guys who's in this Singing Safari came to hear us perform in the last one, so he was quite inspired and he's joined in now.
Fantastic. Is there a challenge with singing outside? Anything different about that?
Yes, there is a great challenge because if the wind blows in the wrong direction, you can't hear the people next to you, so all the timing goes out and all the harmonies go out, so it is very challenging. It's always good to have some kind of wall behind you maybe so that the sound will bounce off, and the impulse is to try and sing very loudly and get really, really shouty and try and fill the whole park with sound. Well, actually, you need to do the opposite and get a bit quieter and make sure you really listen to your neighbours.
Really? Ah. Now, somebody tell me about singing in front of a piece of paper or something, or even in front of a window so you can feel the vibrations and hear your voice.
Yep. You can do that thing that folk singers do, you know, with their corduroy trousers and their hand cupped around their ear. And the reason for that is that your voice will bounce off the hand and go into your ear. So if you get it at the right angle, you will only hear yourself. And then if you slowly change the angle, you can mix in how much of the other people you want to hear. So you'll often see people, I mean, nowadays in rock concerts, they have earphones embedded in their ears. But if you see an acoustic set somewhere, every now and then someone will go like that because they're a little bit worried that they're going off key, and they're just checking in with themselves that they can hear themselves very clearly. Wow. So no, but a piece of paper will work. You just look a bit odd, especially if you're in performance. If you're holding maybe a pane of glass, so the audience could see you. We could all have little panes of glass in front of us, and we'll be able to hear each other very well.
I don't know if that's going to take off. Now, do you know, I always ask my guests what their favourite phrase is and why, but I think I should ask you, Chris, what your favourite piece of music is and why.
Oh, God.
Now, I didn't actually tell you I was going to ask you this, so I've put you right on the spot there.
Okay.
But you've got 600 songs, so maybe there's one that's a favourite or something that's special for you.
Well, I can tell you that it depends on the day. And what mood I'm in, but I can also say that there are a few songs that no matter how many times I sing them are guaranteed to send the little hairs on the back of my neck up. One of them is Shenandoah, which a lot of people know, a 4-part harmony arrangement of that, and some of the slow church songs from Georgia and Russia will also do it for me. It's those sort of not overly sentimental, but the sort of slow, rich, unusual harmonies. They really get me going, actually.
That's really interesting. I'd like to bring you onto a desert island, do the Desert Island Discs theme with you one day.
Okay.
That's another show.
I've just been asked that there's a German choral magazine that kindly republishing some of the things I wrote on my blog. And they wrote to me recently and said, would I do the CD review section, because I can choose 3 CDs and write something about them. And that was really, really, really difficult. Out of all the music that I've got, to choose 3 that sort of represent what I like. It's very hard. I don't know how they do Desert Island Discs.
No. 6, and then you've got to choose 1 from the 6.
I know.
Impossible. Now, Chris, I'd like you to tell the viewers what they can do to find out more about your workshops and how they can kind of be kept informed of what you do. So over to you.
Well, I've got a website which I made all on my own, which I'm very, very proud of, and it's called chrisrobery.com. And it's got all the information on there about me, about what I do. It's got the kind of songs that I teach. It's got some of my arrangements on there. But most importantly, you can sign up there for my mailing list. And if there is a one-day workshop near you, then you'll get an email from me telling you about it. And also, a couple of times a year, I send out a newsletter about all the residential weekends. I do 6 residential weekends a year, and that's great because it gives you the opportunity to maybe tackle some slightly more complex songs and a little bit more relaxed style. So you've got a whole weekend of singing with like-minded people. So I've got 6 of those each year, and I stick that in a newsletter a couple of times a year. So the best thing to do is look at the website and then maybe sign up for my mailing list, and I'll keep in touch with all the stuff that I'm doing.
Oh, that's great. So that's chrisrobery.com if you want to be kept informed and up to date. Well, we're coming up to the end of the show now, so I would just like to say a big thank you, Chris. It was so interesting. I now know a lot more about you and how you got started, and hopefully the viewers have learnt more too. And if there are any questions, we'll be checking them later. I can't see any at the moment, but we'll always respond to any questions or any comments. So a big thank you, Chris. Thank you.
A pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's great. So everyone, till next time, come and join us next Thursday for another guest on Hangouts for Business show. Thanks very much. Bye for now.